Hashtag no music, no intro. We are back, and this is our annual episode with our first esteemed guest, the great Tony Pauline, NFL insider, analyst, Sportskeeda. If you don't know, if you're a newer fan, the reason why we even have a podcast is our first podcast we ever did was with Tony almost 5 years 5 years ago. And now and it was a pleasure actually getting to meet you in person at the Senior Bowl finally. Were you in Indy this year?
I was at the Shrine Bowl, then to the Senior Bowl, and then I was in Indianapolis for I think 5 days, 6 days. I landed in Indy Tuesday night, and I stayed till Sunday early evening through the offensive line workout. So yes, I was there. This was the I guess my 25th combine, except for
Ooh.
2001 when they didn't have one. The first combine I attended was actually 2001 when they didn't have a press area. There was no press at all there. And I used to sneak into the combine at the RCA Dome back then. It was loads of fun. And funny story is the RCA Dome, there was a curtain that basically blocked off where, those who could go into the workouts
Right.
went through, and those who couldn't had to stand on the other side of this curtain. And I would come out of the curtain after the workouts, and there would be Chris Mortensen and John Clayton with their
Right.
notebooks, with their pens, with their battery operated recorders.
Orders.
And I guess what happened was after a year or two of me sneaking into the combine, getting the reports out, they finally said, listen, we better get a media center here because,
Yeah,
but oh yeah, those were the days. Those were the days. So
yeah,
the short answer is yes, I was in the combine.
it's big
Uh,
business. No, I could imagine
oh
it's
my goodness.
changed a
Oh
lot.
yeah. Oh, change is not the word. It's insane now. It's gone from you know, a scouting event, a lockdown. It was like KGB. If anybody remembers what the KGB is, a KGB lockdown scouting event. To now it's a media cluster. You know what? I mean, now it's insane.
It is. Now like it was my first time going and
I wish I
um
knew you were there.
yeah, we should have linked up, but it was an experience to be there and everything. Uh, so we have you on. Thank you for joining us. Let's get into the hot topic that's on everyone's mind right now. Um, and Ryan and I have talked about this because it feels like the Saints are battling their draft grade of going BPA at 9, or potentially if Shador is there at 9,
Right.
taking him. You always have great draft tidbits about teams in general, but usually, especially for the Saints over the years. What are you just hearing? Are you hearing anything specifically regarding the Saints and potentially like draft plans or players they may be attached to?
Well, I made some calls before this show. Now, you have to remember, final draft meetings are going on now. So
Right.
what's happening is everybody gets together, the general manager, the coaches, the scouting staff, the medical staff, and they're formulating the plan now. But as of a couple of hours before I came on with you guys, I asked specifically about number 9, and someone told me no. It said no, they don't think it's going to be Shador Sanders at 9. Look for Quinn Ewers in the third round because evidently the Saints like Quinn Ewers a lot. And Quinn Ewers, for some asinine reason, has been the forgotten quarterback in this whole process. People have just dismissed him. But that's what I was told a few hours ago.
That really, some reason that doesn't really shock me, because I've been having a feeling that they have interest in Ewers,
Yep.
and it seems like we know they want a quarterback. We know the Saints want to draft a quarterback at some point, but it seems like they don't want to reach, quote unquote, reach for a quarterback, at 9 or whatever. So they're willing to take a day 2, day 3 quarterback or something like that, which is it just seems like that's how it's going to work. But that's kind of what they've been doing for years, they took Spencer Rattler in round 5 last year. Year before that, they took what's his name, the Jake Hayner,
Oh, Jake Hayner.
yeah. So it just seems like they just can't talk themselves into actually just making the aggressive push to go get a quarterback in the first round. And maybe this isn't the draft to do it. I don't know what you think about it.
I mean, I liked Shador Sanders coming into the season. He was my number 1 rated quarterback. I had high hopes for him, but it's not worked out for him. I mean, the 2024 film, is not as good as the 2023 film. In fact, in many ways, it's regressed in some areas.
Wow.
He's not a big quarterback. He's not an overly athletic quarterback. He doesn't have a huge arm. Fundamentally, he's very flawed. He doesn't throw a proper footwork. He throws off his back foot. He runs backwards in reverse when he's being rushed at times, which you don't do as a quarterback. I didn't see. I like the quarterbacks that show a lot of progress the year before they're going. The season before they're drafted.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels a year ago. Cam Ward this year, who was a much better quarterback in 2024 than he was in 2023. And then, you can't tiptoe around it. There's the specter of Deion Sanders, which is going to a concern for a lot of teams because Deion Sanders is an outspoken guy. He's a famous guy. And if things aren't going well or they're not going the way Deion wants them to go, he's going to be outspoken about it, as any parent would be, right?
Right.
But the thing is, most parents like us don't have the bully pulpit of being the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes and having microphones stuck in our face. And I think the other thing, and I've talked to teams, there's a bit of concern there because really his father's been his only coach. So what's going to happen when he gets, to other coaching? How is he going to take to that? So there's a lot of red flags, and I just don't think he's as good as a lot of people are saying, and I don't think he's good enough to pass on other players that may be higher rated on your draft board if you're a team.
Right. And that's exactly what it feels, the sense coming out of the Saints building. And the player that they seem maybe really tied to, maybe that they would like to draft if he's available, is Tyler Warren at 9.
Yep.
Me and Ryan have talked about Tyler Warren in depth. We like him as a player. We might feel like maybe his, where he is as a, top overall player, to us, it feels maybe a little high, but just your impression of Tyler Warren as a player, your kind of assessment of him overall as a tight end.
It's kind of funny because I have a 2-round mock draft coming out tomorrow at Sportskeeda, and I have the Saints taking Tyler Warren at 9. Now, I'm not huge on Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren was a tremendous college player, but he's a nice NFL prospect. He's not a great tight end. He's not Brock Bowers. He's not close to Brock Bowers, okay? He's a good pass catcher. He's a good blocker. He does a lot of things very well. I believe that your best tight ends in this year's draft are going to come out of day 2. Elijah Arroyo of Miami of Florida, Orlando Gatson of Syracuse, Joshua Simon of South Carolina. It may not be for a year or two, but those are going to be your most dynamic tight ends as they develop. I think what Tyler Warren brings is he brings outstanding size. He brings a lot of dependability. And when you look at all the tight ends in this year's draft, he's probably the one that's going to be the week 1 starter. He's going to be the one that's on the field, the second week of September as a productive tight end. Colston Loveland, who I actually have rated slightly higher, has got a shoulder issue, so you don't know how that's going to work out. And the other guys who I just mentioned, even Mason Taylor, your neck of the woods, will need some work on their game. So I like Tyler Warren. I think when you look at it from the perspective of the tight ends, he's the safest tight end. He doesn't have the highest ceiling. He doesn't have the greatest upside, but he's got a limited floor. He's not going to, there's not much downside risk there. But I do have the Saints taking Tyler Warren. I think you're looking at the Jets at 7, the Saints at 9, the Bears at 10, the Colts at 16, and maybe later on, if he falls, either the Chargers or the Rams. Tyler Warren has not worked out at all in the pre-draft process. He did not test at the combine. He did not do position drills at the combine. He did not test at the Penn State Pro Day. He did not do position drills at the Penn State Pro Day. Now, if you follow me at Sportskeeda, I had known the Pro Day information a couple of weeks beforehand that he wasn't going to work out because what they were going to do is they were just going to market him or have him work out with those teams that I just mentioned that are very high on Warren.
Yeah, no, I remember you writing about that. So he's kind of honing in on the teams that he feels are going to select them. It seems like, which is just an interesting. This whole we've seen how it's kind of changed over the years
Yep.
where nobody's working out anymore. Nobody's working out. If they do work out, it's going to be at the pro day. They're going to do only a limited amount of things.
Yep.
I guess from a monetary standpoint, it makes sense, But just kind of old school me, I'm like, man, do y'all want to compete? Like,
Right.
y'all
Go compete.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, some of the guys, Emanawari of South Carolina just ran the 40. Shamar Stewart, who's going to be a big story on draft night, the first round, along with Tyler Warren and Shador Sanders, did the 40, did the vertical jump, and did the broad jump, and that's it. He didn't even do position drills. So I think it's coming down to with some of these guys who are getting information. Yeah, exactly. Here you go. That they're going to go high is, they're going to just do what they're really good at, and they're not going to do things where they may be suspect at, which could expose them and hurt them. I mean, listen, Michael Mayer, you remember the tight end from Notre Dame, Michael Mayer? Everyone thought he was going to run a 4.8. He was going to run a 4.8. He runs at the combine. He runs in the high 4.6s, 4.70. Everyone was shocked. If Tyler Warren's in the same situation. He's a 4.75 guy, maybe a little bit higher. If Tyler Warren thought he was really going to exceed expectations and run a faster 40 than people thought, he would have had his rear end out there running the 40, no doubt about it.
Yep.
It's just interesting, and I, as a scout or doing being in the draft, it's just, and I heard Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks talking about this. Like, it just puts more emphasis on the tape. It just puts more emphasis on the tape. One name that has kind of floated around potentially. I know you heard the Quinn Ewers. There's also potentially like maybe the Saints. There may be some like people in the building that like Tyler Shuck. He has a very interesting story, Louisville quarterback. What's your overall evaluation of Tyler Shuck, who is older? We saw him at the Senior Bowl, got to talk to him a little bit at the Senior Bowl. Just overall, just thoughts about him as a quarterback.
Well, number one, kudos to him because he made the decision to go back for another year, transfer to Louisville, and it's worked out for him. So he deserves credit for that. And he was one of those guys, a quarterback whose game is on the upswing. He was a much better quarterback in 2024 than he was the prior 4 years.
Right.
I have my concerns, and my concerns are, he was really good last year at Louisville. Yes, he was outstanding as a redshirt freshman in Oregon 5 years ago, but there's 4 years missing from his resume in which he was either injured or there was a lot of inconsistent play. So that is a concern to me. I mean, which Tyler Shuck is a team going to get when they draft him? Are they going to get the guy, the seventh-year senior, who, really was consistent, improved in the ACC, albeit in 2024? Or are they going to get the guy that showed a lot of inconsistency and a lot of injury? He hit it, he timed it right, and he's going to hit a home run because coming into the season, you're looking at Tyler Shuck off the prior 4 years at Texas Tech as a 6th or 7th round pick. Now he's going to go early part of the second round. So credit to him. I'm just very concerned because there's such a slim body of work and there was so much inconsistency for, most of his college career as well as injury.
So is the league interest in him real? Because a lot of our listeners will be like, where did this guy come from? Like, how is he getting pushed up by like the NFL media and stuff like that? But is it all from the league? It seems like from the league standpoint, it seems like they like him more than the actual media.
Well, because the media just doesn't know who he is. I mean, you guys know because you were at the Senior Bowl and you follow this stuff. But yeah, to answer your question, yes. I mean, there was some talk, which I thought was a bit insane, that he could go late first round. But I think he's going with, if Jackson Dart falls out of the first round, which I think is going to happen, along with Jackson Dart, and we have to see what happens with Jalen Milroe. They're going to be very early picks when the second night of the draft begins.
And I know that the Saints also love him. It's just it's going to be fascinating to me to see which one of the quarterbacks do they eventually land on, because it's going to be one of them, whether it be Shuck, Milroe, Dart, yours. Like, it's just, and I guess the interesting question is like, who has, and no one on this podcast knows, but who has the most juice in the building to finally make that final call of who it's going to be. Like that's going to really what it boils down to.
Right. Well, I mean, you hope that the new head coach has a
Right.
say in it, and it's the general manager just doesn't overrule him because the team is in the position that it is, the franchise in the position it is. There's been one guy consistent throughout the whole process throughout the years, and that's the general manager. So you bring in an offensive minded head coach, a guy that was a quarterback, a guy that worked his way through the ranks. You would hope that he has a large say in it, and you would hope that he would be able to develop the
Right.
quarterback, whether it
Right.
be a Jalen Milroe, as you mentioned, as a Quinn Ewers, as I mentioned, because that's how he made his chops.
A lot of interest is going on with Jalen Milroe, especially with him
Yep.
being invited to the combine, him accepting the invite. What do you make of all
Invited to
that?
the
Like,
draft.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, to the NFL draft.
Right.
What do you make of all that? Like,
Well, I mean, somebody knows something. Right? I mean, listen, I am coming into the season. I was a big Milroe guy. I loved Milroe. I thought that he could make a Jaden Daniels type ascension up draft boards. And in the early part of the season, it looked like he was doing exactly that. You
Yep.
remember that Georgia game, the Saturday night game?
Yes.
Alabama went out to the huge lead. Georgia came back. The Alabama defense couldn't stop him, and then boom, Milroe brought him down the field in the end zone with that 75-yard bomb, and that is the Jalen Milroe that I really wanted to see. And then it kind of leveled off and even went in reverse. I mean, he
Right.
was not good at the end of the season. He was beating teams more with his feet and his legs than he was his arm. He was not good in the bowl game. You guys were at the Senior Bowl. It was very unimpressive would be a compliment.
Yep.
And he was not good at the combine workout. But you look at him, he's got as far as the physical tools, he's the best package in this draft. When you look at arm strength, when
By
you
far.
look at the athleticism, the ability to pick up yardage with his legs, he's a high character guy. He is a well-liked person. He's a leader on the field. You just better have a real good quarterback coach to work with him, and you better take your time with him.
Yes.
I was chided because I kept putting him in the first round of my mock draft, and I finally said, you know what, I'm doing it more because of emotion than actual what I'm seeing. And I spoke with somebody yesterday, and this is going to be in an article tomorrow at Sportskeeda, and we talked about this, and they said, look, if Anthony Richardson was the fourth pick of the draft, then Jalen Milroe could and should be a first-round pick.
Thank you. Thank you. Because I feel like the recency bias of Anthony Richardson is being held against him to some degree. Maybe not to NFL teams, but to fans for sure.
yeah.
And I understand that. I mean, I never thought Anthony Richardson should have been taken in the first round, but he was. And,
Right.
Anthony Richardson is just one example. We can talk about a dozen plus quarterbacks the past 5 years, 6 years that shouldn't have gone in the first round. But as we know, the position is overdrafted more than any other position, and teams reach for that quarterback because, listen, you go back to Anthony Richardson. Teams see a guy that's tall, athletic, the huge arm. Remember the pro day workout where he hit the ceiling on purpose with the arm, with the ball. If you remember that, and football coaches do that. They coach football, and they say, "I'm not going to worry about what happened in college. I'm going to coach this guy to be the best football player he has." If you talk to scouts basically look at a player and they say, "What can he do?" They don't look at the bad things. They go, "What can he do?" And we'll build from there. And in my opinion, it's very dangerous when it comes to the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
What I feel like we're talking. I mean, it's a very quarterback centric league. One player I feel like Saints would like just fawn over if he happened to fall in the draft, and I just feel like if he gets past 5 by Jacksonville, it's maybe hard to find a team for him. Is Mason Graham from Michigan? Is there any possibility that you potentially could see him slipping in the draft, potentially 2-9?
I doubt it. I doubt it very much because, I mean, I think what's going to happen is Armand Membo is either going to go. I don't think he's going to go 4. He could go 5 to Jacksonville. If he doesn't go 5 to Jacksonville, I think the Jets would swipe him up. I think if Jacksonville happens to take Armand Membo, the Jets could take Mason Graham. A team could trade up to get Mason Graham. I mean, Mason Graham, in a lot of ways, is like the Tyler Warren at the defensive tackle position. He's explosive, he's reliable, he's dependable. He doesn't have great physical skills, but you know what you're getting with him. He's going to come out and he's going to cause an impact and be and should be productive really from week 1 and have a long, not a glorious career, but a very consistent, productive career. So I would be surprised if he falls that far, because if he starts to fall, I would imagine that teams are going to start to make calls to move up and try and grab him.
One of my favorite players in this draft probably won't be a Saint, just because I haven't really seen any connection between them. But it's Jalen Walker. It seems like his range could be anywhere. Like, where are you getting a sense with him?
I am a Jalen Walker guy. Going into the season, I had told some of my agent friends when I watched him in 2023, when he was basically a rotational linebacker, I said, watch this guy because he's got some great upside. And he's one of my favorite players in the draft because people are going to, in my opinion, kind of pigeonhole him as a pass rusher, as an edge rusher, but he's more than that. He can play in space. He's got linebacker ability. The problem is he's 6'1", 245 pounds, and he's got a funky body. And there are some teams that really are concerned about body type. So you look at Jalen Walker, and he could be maxed out physically. Okay. I thought that, he deserved to get consideration at 6. You would think the Carolina Panthers at 8. I think the Bears at 10 are a consideration. So I would say right now, anywhere from 8 to maybe 11, where the Niners are selecting.
Wouldn't that'd be the most Niners pick? Just Jalen Walker right next to just Fred Warner, just. So we're doing a lot of round 1, but the Saints. A big reason why the Saints are where they are is that not how they only not really hit on their first round picks, but they haven't really hit on the second round picks, third round picks. It's been a bad stretch for them. They have high picks. They have the 40th, they have 71, and then they have 93 for the Marshawn Lattimore trade. Do you have a sense of maybe, I don't know, maybe not even players, but like maybe just positions they may be interested in? I know you had mentioned Quinn Ewers in round 3, but like positions that they may be trying to maybe attack later on in the draft?
Well, I think what will happen is, depending on who they select in round 1, if one of those top cornerbacks fall into round 2, that's a direction they'll look. I had them taking Siobhan Revell of East Carolina in round 2. I mean, Siobhan Revell has got mid-first round physical skills. He was developing his game on the field, showed a lot of progress in his ball skills until he suffered that injury in practice in the early part of October, which sidelined him the rest of the season, which kind of really hurt his draft stock because he wasn't able to continue to progress on the field. So I think that cornerback is obviously an area. I think receiver as well, depending on, again, if a receiver falls out of the first round. If Luther Burden is staring him in the face and Siobhan Revell happens to be there, it's a good problem for them. So I think those two positions are areas that they're going to look at on day 2, depending obviously on who they select with that first round choice.
A lot of talk has been going on about the wide receiver position, with Tatora McMillan. You got Matthew Golden, who's kind of risen up recently. It doesn't seem like there's like there's crazy wide receiver talent at the top, but it does, as the more you look at it, it seems like a pretty deep draft with like nice number 2, number 3 type receivers.
Yeah.
Where's that run going to happen, do you think? Like, is it going to happen in the late first round, in the second round, third round? Where does that run really happen with those guys?
Well, I think it's more number 3s and number 4s than it is number 2. I think you were right on the money when you talk about Matthew Golden rising, and Matthew Golden could end up to being the first receiver selected in the draft by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
I like Ted McMillan. Ted McMillan has made a lot of stupid comments in the lead up to the draft, which is, you just don't say some of the things he does because it raises question marks. People may remember Donnie Mitchell a year ago. I love the guy's game. Yeah, he's not the fastest. Yeah, he's not the quickest, but he's a big, tall receiver who plays big football. Very reliable, smart, gets it, knows how to read the defenses. He could go. I would say if I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, I'm looking for a number one receiver. You got to consider him as well as Ashton Genty. I don't think it's going to happen. Same thing with the Jets, who need a receiver, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he could fall from 12. He could fall as far where Denver is selecting. I think when you get to that area where the Seattle Seahawks are, who need a receiver, that's when you'll start to see that the second receiver of the draft come off the board, and then a couple more with Denver, and maybe one more before the round ends.
Kind of last one I have for you, Tony. I always like to ask you just who are, you just give maybe two players that you just love. It could be players who are expected to go high. It could be like sleepers. Just two players in this draft that you just absolutely just have like a man crush on, regardless of position, offense, defense, what have you.
Well, I mean, we talked about some of them: Ted McMillan, Jalen Walker, because I was so high on him before the season when really no one knew who he was. As a player, I like Kieran Lacy of LSU. He's probably going to fall out of the draft because of the legal issues he's facing now. I like both receivers from Arkansas, Isaac Tesler, and especially Andrew Armstrong. I mean, because Armstrong's a guy, again, when I did my summer film work, I watched this guy. All he did was catch the ball when it was thrown to him. And he was given basically street free agent grades coming into the season, and all the guy did was produce. And then, by the way, he goes to his pro day and he runs in a low 4.4. So he showed that he could, he's got the speed. He's just got to transfer that speed onto the football field. I like Jonah Monheim of USC, the former left tackle, who's also a center. He's going to fall because he has 30.5-inch arms.
Oh, was he at the Senior Bowl?
He was at the Senior Bowl, right?
Oh,
you had to shake his hand, and he couldn't get his arm out far enough for you. Right?
No, I just remember him looking very good in one-on-ones. Yeah.
He's a good player. Savion Jones, another guy your way. I mean, didn't have a great year at defensive end, but they moved him into defensive tackle on the inside at the Senior Bowl, and all of a sudden, boom! His game took off. That's another guy I like. Let's see. There's I'm looking at my list here. Tyreen Powell. I'm trying to pick a Mekhi Butler of the offensive lineman from Arkansas State as well.
I guess my last one, my late draft crush is R.J. Harvey. He was at the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
We got a chance to talk to him, watch his tape. Where is he slated to go? I'm hoping the Saints could kind of snatch him in like day 3, but I have no idea where he's slated to go.
Yeah, you're right. You're probably looking the beginning part, 4th, 5th round maybe for R.J. Harvey. You have to remember, this is an incredibly deep running back class.
So crazy deep.
So what's going to happen is there are going to be running backs who are selected a round or a round and a half early than their grades, really warrant. And one of those guys could be R.J. Harvey, who he's small, but he's explosive. He's fast. And, he picks up a lot of yardage, 5'8", 204 pounds. So he's more of a situational player. It's Travis Hunter didn't run the 40 at the combine or at his pro day, and people were talking about Travis Hunter's speed. Why do I bring this up? If you have the opportunity, pull up the Central Florida Colorado game, because I believe it was the second possession that Central Florida had the football. It was like midway through the first quarter. R.J. Harvey breaks through the line of scrimmage down the left-hand side and runs away from Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter could not catch R.J. Harvey, which tells you something about the fact he ran a 4.4 at the combine. He plays that fast.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think right now I'm looking at it right now, I have a late 4th-round grade on Harvey. Some people think he could go a little bit early, but, a game-breaking play. And even though he's a small, he plays big. I mean, he will take it on the inside. He doesn't shy away from contact.
No, he
No,
doesn't.
not at all. He's a good player. I like Taj Brooks from Texas Tech. I like Coyer's a tight end from Texas Tech. So there's good it's a very meat and potatoes type of draft. Very meat and potatoes.
It's deep. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
it's not great in the first round, but because remember, this is the last year of the COVID eligibility rule. So, you're going to get, your 7th-year seniors like Shuck. You're going to get 6-year seniors, 5th-year seniors. And what it means is late in the draft, the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you're going to have more draftable players than you have picks. What you're going to hear about, and you're going to hear a one-sided argument, you're going to talk about how, the first round of the draft, there's 32 picks, but there's only about 18 to 20 players with real first-round grades, and that's true. But what's going to happen on day 3 is you're probably going to have about 325 players with draftable grades, but you only have 262 draft picks because this is the last year of the COVID rule.
Wow.
So that means, which means that priority free agency is going to be
better be working those phones. I say better be working those phones after those drafts. A lot of those deals are actually consummated during the draft in the 7th round, where they're saying with teams, okay, if you are not selected, this is what we're offering you, and they kind of agree to it before the draft is over. Probably shouldn't say that because people get in trouble if they really do an investigation, but that's the way it works.
For sure.
One quick question I have, real quick. Why does it seem like some players are more highly valued undrafted than they are in the 7th round? I'm sometimes why didn't you just take them in the 7th round instead of just trying to get them in, trying to get them as an undrafted free agent? Is that something like teams?
Yeah, from a team perspective or from a player perspective? Because a lot of times a player would rather go undrafted than be selected in the 7th round, because if he's undrafted, he's going to get a bigger signing bonus, and he can choose where he wants to go. Then there were some time, and I know of situations where the teams will call the player, or at least call the agent, and say, "Listen, if he's not selected, we have an interest in signing him after the draft." And the agent will say, "If you don't draft him, we're not signing with you." So they'll have to draft the player. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Fascinating. Thank you. NFL is just something I always wondered.
There's nothing like it. There's no one like Tony Pauline. Check out his great work on Sportskeeda. You said your mock draft, second round mock draft or 2-round mock draft dropping tomorrow or dropping Monday?
No, tomorrow. It'll be out tomorrow. I'm going through it, and I send it in, and then they post it and do whatever else. So, yeah, it should be up sometime tomorrow. They love the mock drafts. I mean, the mock drafts, I'll send them in, and I'll email them in the 10 minutes. I'll have big stories, and I'm like, where's the story? Get the story. Get the story. The mock drafts they love, though.
Click. As always.
Exactly.
As always, Tony, thank you for always coming on. Can't wait to talk to you next year. See you at the Senior Bowl and everything. Always a pleasure. And with that, we are out.
Peace.